NSFW, what are some dirty secrets you have seen at a bachelorette party that could ruin the marriage? Two of the 3 bachelor parties I've been to were pretty vanilla. Drinks, grill, video games. Of course one of those omitted the drinks because Jesus. The third however was more fun. So turns out the groom and one of the groomsmen were lovers at one point, completely unbeknownst to the rest of the world. The groomsman Chris decides that tonight was the optimal time to tell the groom Harris that he loved him. That he's always loved him since the first time they kissed however long ago. The rest of us just sat there in stunned silence. Right there in my living room they have this huge argument about how Harris wasn't gay and how Chris said he was okay with just being occasional FCK brothers for the last 5 years, but they both knew it had to end when he got engaged. Finally it devolved into an actual fist fight and they both ended up with some nasty bruises. We broke it up eventually, but sometimes you just have to let out your physical frustration with your gay lover the night before he gets married. It's one of those weird things though. After it was over and they both calmed down, they just gave a big hug and that was that. Next morning Harris' dad is obviously curious why he has a black eye. We'd agreed to say paintball to everyone and that was the official story. Chris had a bruise too, but he's really black, so you couldn't tell that much. Harris' sister used some concealer or something on his eye and the wedding went off without a hitch. Harris is still married to his wife and Chris is still his best friend. So all's well that ends well, I suppose. Not a party, but the rehearsal dinner. Groom's father reaches out and grabs a handful of bride-to-be's ass. She turns around and he sticks his hand up her skirt and up her crotch. She quickly jumps back, surprised and upset. Then she responds with, "Stop it. You are going to make me blush." His son came over and both his dad and fiance acted as if nothing. How did we find out about this? We watched the video the photographer took of that night. Yeah. Update, you all are wondering what happened after. The wedding went on as planned. The couple made it past a year, not much, before calling it quits. There is no indication they saw the video. The guy and his dad have a great relationship, so I'm guessing, no, they did not see the video, or they are just that weird. Like a lot of you, I too wonder why none of her friends who say the video spoke up. I put my money on the affair camp. I would not be surprised if anything was going on between the guy's father and the bride. That is what makes sense to me. Welp, from this thread I learned that if I'm cheated on nobody will tell me. I worked in a photo lab. Normally it was cats and houses in the pics. But then a woman dropping of a few rolls of film was acting oddly. This is usually a clear sign that the pictures were going to be interesting. It was a bachelorette party. Normal stuff at first. The women were all fairly pretty. Then a safari themed stripper was being featured. The pictures show most of the women at the party blowing the stripper. Then the stripper got the bride practically naked in a circle of them and dry humped her in several ways, rubbing his junk all over her. Then the pics were in a bedroom. The bride and another girl had sex with the stripper. My guess was they were alternating who was taking pictures. The last photo was a seam shot on the ring. Edit, I always assumed it was the engagement ring. It was troubling to say the least. No idea what happened. I didn't develop the wedding photos. Edit to add, this happened in the early 2000s. My trainer told me I wasn't supposed to print pics that showed anything illegal. I also didn't have to print any photos that I was uncomfortable printing. We had a little pre-made card to put in the order in case of that, to explain the situation. I was in my early 20s at that point, so I never had use for that card. In New Orleans, our bachelor group Good found a bachelorette group and started talking, dancing, etc. It was late in the night at this time, and our bachelor was dancing with their bachelorette mostly at the urging of the bridesmaids because they thought it would be cute. Not too long into it, he gets belligerently handsy and heads a bit up the skirt. I didn't see the act, but spun around when one of the bridesmaids hollered, "Your bachelor just effed our bachelorette." We bounced immediately. Not a traditional bachelor party, but upon going out for drinks with him, the groom spent an uncomfortable amount of time voicing very real foundational concerns about the union, his then fiancée, their terrible money situation. It was about 2 months prior to the wedding, and, in his own words, he wouldn't call it off because people had already bought their tickets and stuff. It was all around depressing because, on the actual day, she seemed pretty happy and he just looked kinda flat, a look that seems to be a permanent fixture in his demeanor these days. I think he was just too polite to initially call it off when he realized he wasn't 100% into it, and then it progressed into cohabitation, engagement, marriage. My bachelor party was a complete shit show. By poetic coincidence, my best man was going through a divorce while things were amping up toward my wedding. When I arrived at his place for the party, I found him sitting on the living room floor. On the floor, because, you see, there wasn't any furniture. His wife had come while he was at work and cleaned out the house. Like, thoroughly cleaned it out. No furniture, no glasses in the kitchen, no curtains. She left his clothes, still folded, in the place where the dresser used to be. In the closet, his clothes were on the floor. She'd taken the hangers. The booze he'd stocked up for the party, all gone. Except for one empty bottle, left in the otherwise barren fridge. She took the mustard, even. Barren. He sat on the floor, shell-shocked and stunned. Occasionally he'd answer a question and monotone grunts. The other guys arrived, and some of them brought a couple 6-packs of beer. We all sat on the floor in the living room, occasionally tossing bottle caps at an empty bottle in the center of the room. If it hit, it'd make a ting noise, and we'd all give a Monty Python yay. At one point, one of us found a deck of cards in a pile of random stuff she'd decided she didn't want, and had thrown into a corner of the dining room. We threw cards at the target bottle for a while, until another friend made a discovery. She'd taken all the hearts, leaving only the spades, clubs, and diamonds. Best man started weeping. I'd managed to drink 2 beers. We'd told a few half-hearted stories, and largely spent the night trying to convince the best man he was better off this way. Most of the guys left, and I stayed until the wee hours of the morning with the best man wailing, "Don't do it, man. It isn't worth it." Good times.